It's fucking pouring out today. It would bother anyone else, but it makes no difference to me. I have a job to do, and I'll get it done. So why do I still have this nauseous feeling in my stomach, like I've just eaten McDonald's or some other shitty fast food? It could be the putrid stench in the air, as if someone had been here before me, taken a shit, and left it here as some sort of sick present or joke. Or it could just be the same recurring feeling I get every time I receive a new contract. You see, every time I'm going in for the hit, for 5 minutes, I get a morality attack. Doesn't sound like much, but let me assure you, those 5 minutes get pretty fucking intense. Let me clarify a few things first, shall I? I'm a hitman, a pretty successful hitman. Been doing this 15 years now, and I'm pretty much the best at what I do. The thing about being successful and known for it in this line of business is that your name travels far and wide through word of mouth, meaning you have a steady flow of contracts coming in, which means cash is never an issue. But it also means you become public enemy number one. Don't believe me? Let me put it in perspective. The point of being a hitman is that you are hired to do the dirty work of some other person who doesn't have the balls to do it themselves. They'll pay good money for it. So what happens when there are a string of killings or assassinations, and every possible suspect has an airtight alibi, and the cops can't figure out the perp? They'll start digging up names of hitmen, start making their rounds to visit them and ask questions. No one likes being interrogated, especially hitmen, and especially hitmen like me. And then the case kind of fades away after a while, with new cases coming in. There'll always be that one schmuck private investigator who will take on the case and dig up evidence on his own. He'll start searching through dumpsters and making his own rounds about the city, digging up names, interrogating people. Let me assure you, I always clean up after my mess. Shit. My stomach is twisting into knots again. You know, it's kind of funny. One would think after 15 years being in this business that it would get easier every time. But for me, those fucking 5 minutes always come back to bite me in the ass. In those 5 minutes, I let my emotions get to me. You see, my first hit was a child. That's right. Some poor kid who had stumbled across the wrong side of the tracks and witnessed a drug deal. As soon as he saw it, he booked it all the way back home to call up the cops. It was a big catch for the 5-0 at the time. They'd been itching for something this big all year, after sitting on their asses, eating donuts and drinking shit coffee. It went into the papers the next day, and the kid's smiling face was printed all over the article. It didn't take long for the connections to be called in and a contract made out. The lucky up-and-coming hitman was me. At the time, I had 2 contracts coming in. One was this kid, the other was a bounty on another hitman's head. I was new. I couldn't bring myself to kill off a colleague, not if I wanted to stay in this business. So, I took out the kid. That was the first time I got a morality attack. I was back to being a normal human being with feelings. And I quickly learned that emotions are a hindrance. You don't want to get burdened with emotions 5 minutes before you're hit. They're a sign of weakness, and as a hitman, there's no room for weaknesses. Plus, the 3 mil contract was a good enough reason. Fuck. Enough reminiscing. Reminiscing just makes you think about your previous life, when you're a normal human being, working your routine 9-to-5 job, making just enough money to keep bread on the table. When you had to deal with the stress of everyday life, dreaming of that big promotion that you'd never get. When you carried out your life entirely by emotions. But, I won't lie to you, I reminisce all the time. Because when I was that normal human being, I never had to worry about cops and PIs snooping in my trash. Never had to think about where I'd have to move to next to keep my trail as clean as possible. Never had to force myself into a sort of moral void the way lawyers always do, to push it out for those 5 minutes and survive a morality attack. Never had to even think about the idea that some rat would snitch on me, just to cut out a deal with the cops and leave me with $sign hovering over my head. There's something I didn't mention before. thing about being successful and known for it in this line of business is that your name travels far and wide through word of mouth, meaning you have a steady flow of contracts coming in, which means cash is never an issue. All this means you make a lot of enemies along the way. The only uncertainty in being a successful hitman is that I'm never sure when I'm the next to go.
Run to the sun, can't turn back 選ばれへん走るか歩くかは視界が霞む中パズルまだ完成せずで踏み外すかは自分次第か仕組まれたものか偽れば愚か傷なめてほのかにする血の匂いに覚醒する野生ストレスをためる逆へ向く風いくら目の下にクマ作ったって分かるはずもない答えどうすれば救われる報われる交互でなくランダムサバイバルと遠足人生は痛みを伴う改革の連続未来も音なく立ち去る尾根の止めるのはドアがいても不可能で歌の上吐き出すブルー探し出すルーツ Life is a struggle 粋なマイナスループ人生は逆境苦痛葛藤傷だらけでも進むマロー内から襲いかかるシャドウ傷だらけでも作るアート人生は逆境苦痛葛藤傷だらけでも続くマロー外から襲いかかるシャドウ Life is a struggle
Nobody get paid to somebody get paid どこのレインでも作る笑いはボロボロでどこに公共は灯火はどこかトニーリミット超えた叫びを喉が潤してる中頭は滞ってる日常のしがらみから逃れですケースバイケース落胆を肩にデイバイデイ展開してく一人の妄想夢と履き違えたデカめのシューズそんな3分夢物語誰が売る足かせは財布のぬくもりあなた50 years で寸法に飽き飽きたちまち何かに